think that there is a time and a place to start to implement systems. Okay. So let me dive in first to what is a system. A system is a streamlined way of getting something done. Okay. So right now, I am doing a system. I am recording a podcast training. This is a system that we have a checklist of things that need to get done. You might be watching this in real time. You might be live, right? Maybe you listened the second the podcast came out, the day it came out. But I have recorded this a week earlier. I am actually right now at my live event. We have our first big event that we've had since COVID. And I will be there fully engaged with and present with our clients that will be in the room while you are watching the works of a system being done. Okay. That is the beauty of a system, is that you get to multiply your time, right? So a system is a streamlined way of getting something done. And I want you to think about, how streamlined is my business? Could I be doing multiple things at one time, or would balls just start to drop? Okay. Now, I do think that there are seasons when you need to be working on certain systems, stages in the business where it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, because I believe that systems will be constantly modified and changed as you hit the next milestone. So, whatever you're grossing right now in your annual revenues, when you double that, those systems aren't most likely going to work anymore. You're going to have to change them and tweak them, right? Some of the systems you just won't even have, because what you did at a certain amount, right? What you did at 250,000 a year, you won't do it at a million. So some of these systems become completely irrelevant. So I say this because you don't want to systematize your business too soon, or systematize things you're not really using or needing, right? So I've got 5 systems I'm going to share today that I believe every business needs, no matter what stage they're in, and that will bring you a return no matter where you currently are. Sound good? So I'm going to jump right in. Number 1 is a team performance system. Team performance. Okay, let me talk about what that means. Now, first of all, I still get a lot of people that will be solo entrepreneurs following me. And I try to convince them as fast as possible to at least hire one person. I really truly believe you will never have any work-life balance being a solopreneur. Why? Because you have to do everything, right? I also believe that you will never have the freedom and flexibility you want with a large team if you don't get this under control. Okay? Everybody needs to be listening to this piece right now. So here is my question when it comes to a team performance system. How often are you checking in on team members or contractors? What are you paying them for? And then what are they doing? And what is required of them? How often are you checking on that? Okay. Now, if you're like, every once in a while, that's not a system, because it's not repeatable. It's not streamlined. If I told you every Monday, I look at my KPIs, my team's KPIs, that's a system. Do you see the difference? One is like, well, we do, we review. When I say to somebody on a coaching call, sales call, whatever, and I say, what's your profit margin? And they go, like 30 to 40%. I'm like, first of all, hold up. 30 to 40% is a wide range. Okay. Now, if you said with confidence, we range between 30 and 40% on a monthly basis, and the way you said it made me believe you. When you're like, like 30-ish, something, it really screams to me, you don't know, which means you're not checking, which means it's not a system. Okay. So what systems do you need to put in place to be watching your team, to be watching you? Okay. Yes, to be watching you. And you might be thinking, why would I need to watch myself? Okay. I am watching my results so I can look at what I could be getting better at. Right. So when I look at, even right now, we're doing a masterclass that I'm working on. I am constantly tweaking, what was the show up rate? What could I do to get people on that call at a higher quality? How could I fix that? I have my own KPIs. I have my own weekly reports that I'm looking for. All right. Now, another thing we teach inside of well-oiled operations are audits. We teach time audits for team and for the CEO. And that can help in this situation. This past year, I let somebody go immediately after a time audit because it showed me how they were using their time. And I didn't go to fire them immediately. I went to fix it. I'm like, listen, this time audit, not great. Let's restructure. And after we restructured, we realized this person was just not great from working at home. And she knew it, right? And they needed more structure and they needed more accountability. Like she literally wanted us to follow up with her every hour. It's like we can't do that here, right? But what I want you to see is because we have systems in place, we both realized this wasn't working. Okay. Without a system, sometimes you allow things that aren't working to go on forever and ever and ever because without the system, you don't really know if it's not, you don't have the facts. So you allow bad behavior. You're not really sure if they're not producing or they're not performing. So you keep doing it. All right. All right. Next, a client onboarding system. Okay. Your onboarding process sets the tone. It is really hard to change somebody's minds after they're not impressed, right? What you do here could make or break if they ever buy from you again. It will change your future relationship, making it non existent or making them your biggest raving fan. What is the transition from your marketing to your delivery? Did they get everything you promised them? Did you overpromise and now they're getting an under delivery experience, right? Anything you can automate here will not only help you streamline, but will make you look super professional. And then that sets the tone, right? That I made a good decision. These people are organized. I'm going to get everything I was promised, and it will be really impressive to new people. Okay. Next, consistent tracking of your numbers. Okay. So, with this, what I mean, like I had brought up before, is every Monday I am looking at KPIs, right? We are basically looking at the numbers that we are predicting. And then we move on. We look at these numbers, we predict numbers. So let me back up because I feel like this can be confusing. We do two types of reporting. One is the prediction for next month, what we believe we will do, and then the next is what actually happened, right? The actual versus the prediction. So we are about to hopefully, as I say this, I'm like, I don't know. Today is the day that the hurricane, when I'm recording this, today's the day that the hurricane is supposed to be hitting where we have a Florida home, where we are planning to do our annual retreat in a month. And I was just about to say, we're going to Florida to do this. And I'm like, if the house is still there, that's where we're going. But our intention is to, in November, the team and I are going to break away. We are going to look at our numbers. We are going to look at the data from Q1, Q2, and Q3. And we are going to say to ourselves, with this data, let's use this to properly plan 2023. Do you know how many people plan 2023 in a way of just like, you know, what'd be cool? We should hit 2 million next year, right? They have no data. They're not looking at what they're actually on track for. And here's what's crazy. Sometimes they're on track for bigger than they actually think. And when you realize what the numbers are showing you and what's happening, and you're like, oh, well, we're going to hit 2 million if we do nothing new. But man, if we actually tried, what if we hit 2.5? What if we hit 3? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's making predictions based off of data. And then from there, it's going, okay, but what actually happened? And how can we tweak? How can we fix? So you need to be looking sometimes daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. As a CEO, you have to make time for this. I cannot tell you how many times I hear busy, successful in a way of they're generating really good revenues. CEOs tell me, I need well-oiled. I just don't have the time. I'm like, you understand well-oiled is literally like the CEO's handbook. And you're saying, I don't have time to do the things CEOs do. I don't have time to daily track. I don't have time to look at a weekly KPI report. The problem is you are going to hold on to all of your problems and your bad habits from wherever you are right now. They're just going to be magnified even more later. I just talked to somebody who wants to go from 1 to 5 million. And honestly, she can. Like her business, oh, I was like so excited. She's like a perfect fit to join our program. And she can do it. But I said to her, I don't think you want to do it with what you're doing right now. The way that she has to show up for the business, the way that she makes every decision, like that's not going to be fun at 5 million. If we don't fix this now, you are going to hate your business. You're going to hate your life. You're going to be so resentful. And she knew it, right? But you have to put in the time and energy and looking at these numbers. You got to step up and be a real CEO. Okay. All right. Number 4, client upsell system. Now, I'm a big fan of having a bestseller. If you've been listening to me, you've heard me say bestseller a million times. The bestseller is the number one thing that generates the most amount of revenue in your business, right? It's just the thing that you're known for. The bestseller is like it. Okay. But I want you to be thinking about we always call it like a hidden upsell. Once they bought your bestseller, what's next? Now what? Where do they go? And here's the thing. If you don't have a process to let them know you have this thing, or to let them know what's next, or to let them know when people typically buy that thing, you may lose them. I always use a story because it's just such a good example of I used this contractor and then I stopped using the contractor. And the reason I switched is because I really needed this next level thing. And I didn't know she did that. So I went somewhere else to get it. And then we connected later on and she just asked me like what happened? Like we had a great relationship. And I said I needed this thing. I needed this package. And she's like I do that. And I was like here's the learning lesson. I didn't know. You never told me. You never offered it to me. So when somebody else offered it to me, I assumed I had outgrown you. Okay? That person will never make that mistake again, right? So, what is your client upsell system? Do you just hope people hear about it? Do you think they know about it? Guys, let me tell you this. This is the craziest thing ever to me. So, we have our studio is called the Academy of Performing Arts. Okay. We are a dance and music school. We have hundreds in each department. You will be surprised when we have a dancer who's dancing with us and says, you do music lessons? Like they have no idea. Now, the guy walking in with a guitar past them doesn't tell them, hey, music, right? The person on our brochure that's sitting at a piano smiling doesn't click, right? They've seen social media, but they disregard it because it wasn't for them. You think my people already know about this. Do they? Do they know they qualify? Do they know they would be a good fit? Do they know when they should be thinking about it or what milestone they should now decide this is for me? I have a feeling you're assuming, and those assumptions are costing you money. And some clients may be leaving, going elsewhere. Let that sink in. Okay. All right. Next piece, number 5. We're ending right here. A reactivation system. Okay. So, first of all, I'm going to go on a tangent for just a minute because this is super important, I think. So, my sister said to me the other day, oh, I'm so bummed. So, remember this person? Like, yeah. She's like, well, she doesn't go by us anymore. She goes to a different studio, like our competitor. And she's like, I don't get it. Like, and she said, they're cheaper. So, that's clearly why she switched. And I was like, whoa, first of all, we don't know that. You cannot assume it was because they're cheaper and she left, right? So I said, have you thought about reaching out to her? And she's like, well, that would be weird. I'm like, no. What if you just reached out to her and you said, hey, like, I hope this isn't like, this doesn't need to be awkward. I'm just asking a simple market research question. I know you went to our studio. I see you on Facebook going to a different studio. Would you just honestly answer what the reason, like whether it was price or you didn't like the teacher or, I mean, I don't care, like fill in the blank with like real things, right? But like show her you can say you didn't like the teacher. That's not going to hurt my feelings. It's going to make me think I need to go look at what's going on in this classroom, right? And just be honest and say, the more honest you are, the better I can make this business, the better I can make the experience and make sure you don't have that experience someplace else. If it's as simple as price, well, no, I'm not going to lower my price point, right? But now we know, like she was somebody who shopped on price, and that's okay. She's just not our girl. But the idea here is find out, figure it out. Don't just assume. What if we're assuming it's price and it turns out it was an awful teacher and we are still using them and we have not fired them. You cannot assume, okay? So reactivation, hopefully you figured out what that meant by now, is somebody who no longer purchases from you, okay? Now, this is actually a bad example because that girl has been with this other company for 2 years. We're not trying to reactivate her, okay? Like if she says, oh, it was a teacher, I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, let's try a new teacher. She found a new teacher at a different studio. That is not a reactivation campaign. It just made me think of that, okay? So be very clear. That's not a strategy. The strategy would be we didn't know that person went to a different studio and we reached out to say, hey, how's it going? Little Susie hasn't been here in 2 years. Just wondering if she's interested in coming back, trying a dance class or a music lesson. Okay. Now she might say, we actually switched studios. Okay, great. We're not going to try to poach from a different studio. Okay. But she might say, you know what? We've been thinking about coming back. I will not even tell you how many times. You can't believe how many times we hear that phrase. We've been thinking about coming back. We were just going to call you. Do you know how long I've been meaning to call the dentist, you guys? They just went, Tegan and Tanner. One of them has a cavity. Kent took them. And when they went to reschedule, he was like, you know what? Can my wife just do this? Which I was like, I should have went with the system of like, only scheduled on these days, do this, do that. Because he didn't know the system. So he said, she'll just do it later. And then every day I kept thinking, I got to call the dentist. I got to call the dentist. I got to call the dentist. And I wasn't calling the dentist. Finally, I was like, okay, no, she's a cavity. This has to get fixed. So I finally called. But if the dentist would have called me the next day and I would have picked it up, I would have made it faster. Reactivation. People aren't doing this. The dentist isn't going to call me and she's losing money, right? Because she could have sped it up. It could have been there faster. Okay. So who are you forgetting about? Who is somebody that left that you would love to reactivate, that maybe now needs your services, your products, your programs that didn't need it for a little bit of time, right? I mean, in my studio, maybe child number 1 is no longer interested in dance, but maybe she has child number 2. I want to make sure she's thinking of me when her kid turns a certain age, right? So reactivation. Now, I just want to cruise through and remind you one more time. And let me say this, okay, before I go on. I just gave you 5 massive systems. I could do a podcast on each one. I have a video training on each one with a system attached inside of our program. Like I could go in depth. My point here is just start with one. Start with one. So I'm going to recap for a minute. I want you to really ask yourself which one catches your eye first. Okay. This is stuff that I teach inside of Well Oiled that people will implement for months and months and months. Okay. What are you going to focus on first? Is it the team performance system? Is it the client onboarding? Is it tracking? Is it client upsell or a reactivation system? If you had to pick one, where do you believe you are leaving the most amount of money on the table, or which one are you dropping balls with the most? If you're like, oh my goodness, my team, they're all over the place because I'm not leading. You might go there immediately. Okay. So you can't do all of these immediately. You got to pick one first, right? You got to pick one first and start to see that ripple effect. Now, you are leaving so much on the table by not having these in place. You know it. I guarantee you were listening and you're like, oh my goodness, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We've never recalled this person. We've never done a market research call. You can just see the dollar bills flowing out of your bank account right now, right? Okay. Now, here's the deal. I really want to make sure you know that if you want to do any one of these systems, we can help you do this over the next 6 months. If you know now is the time, you're hearing this in October, we're in Q4. If you know you've got to get systems set up, if you've got to start really focusing on dialing this in, especially as 2023 is right around the corner, go to welloiledoperations.com. You can book a call. You can learn more about the program. You can book a call. And then what we're going to do on that call is we're going to show you, we're going to talk about your business. We're going to see where you're truly leaving money on the table. We're going to give you an idea of what we think you should implement first. If you're a good fit for one of our programs, we're going to explain what well-oiled looks like with all of the details and how you can get started. Okay. It is a hands-on program. This is not one of those mass volume programs where anybody just jumps in and you're on your own. We do so much handholding in this program. And I want to make sure you know, because of that, it's limited class sizes each and every month. So if you want to get in, go there now, welloiledoperations.com. Looking at these systems, you know there is so much room for improvement. You know it. The question is, will you do it? Right? Somebody just thought, I'm just going to do number 2. Like, that's it. Am I going to get on it? And then it's like the dentist. You're going to call today. Okay, you're going to call tomorrow. Okay, now you're really going to call today. And the next week you're like, no, seriously, I'm going to call, right? Go to welloiledoperations.com, book that call. And from there, we will help hold you accountable, right? Because imagine how much easier it is when the dentist just calls you and says, hey, we got to get this on the calendar. You're like, you're right. It's a big difference, a massive difference. And I know that every small business needs this program. I hope to see you there. All right, bye everyone. Have a phenomenal week, and I will see you soon.